Then God spoke all these words and said, I am Yahweh, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Do not worship any gods except me. Do not make for yourselves any carved image or likeness of anything heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters under the earth. And do not bow down to them or serve them. For I, Yahweh, am a jealous God, and for the parents' fault I punish the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren of those who turn from me. But I show kindness to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and heed my commandments. Do not utter the name of Yahweh to misuse it, for Yahweh will not acquit anyone who utters God's name to misuse it. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you will labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath for Yahweh. Do no work on that day, neither you, nor your daughter, nor your son, nor your workers, women and men, nor your animals, nor the foreigner who lives among you. For in the 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth and the seas and all that they hold, but rested on the 7th day. This is why Yahweh has blessed the Sabbath day and made it sacred.
One of the Pharisees, an expert on the law, attempted to trick Jesus with the question, Teacher, which commandment of the law is the greatest? Jesus answered, You must love the Most High God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind.
The Ten Commandments have a central role in both Jewish and Christian traditions. Rabbi David Golinkin writes that during the Second Temple period, Jews read the Ten Commandments every morning as a part of worship. This practice stopped out of a concern that people could think there are different levels in the Torah, and by focusing on the Ten Commandments, ignore the rest of the 613 mitzvot, or commandments. In the present time, the Ten Commandments are read publicly in worship 3 times during the year, but many people recite them in private throughout the year. Also known as the 10 Words, we hear that these words were shared with Moses by God during their time in the wilderness. Having escaped Egypt, the Israelites were working to create a new way of living together as a community, and having their own commandments or codes of behavior was one way in which they were able to do so. The Ten Commandments are also an important part of the Christian tradition. And so today, we might think about what the commandments are saying to us right now. We might think about how we could rethink the commandments for our times. During the pandemic, the stories of the Israelites in the wilderness can resonate as we encounter uncertainty, practical challenges, physical risks, and it sometimes seems little more than a promise that eventually this will end. The commandments, and Jesus' summary of the greatest commandment, invite us to think about how we might live with love during this uncertainty. What would the 10 Commandments during COVID-19 be? Here's a possibility of how we might begin. Remember God's presence. You are not alone. God is with you always. Breathe intentionally each day, remembering that this connects you with the Spirit, the breath of God. Celebrate God's presence. During these COVID times, caring for our spirits matters. Finding ways to worship online or by phone and taking part in spiritual practices fosters connection and resilience. Care for creation. Remember, the earth is sacred. Care for the earth, allowing the pandemic to refocus you on its importance, reducing our carbon footprints, caring for local plant and animal species and watersheds. Take time to be outside, to go for a walk or even just open a window, and find your connection to the earth in simplicity and needing less. Create a Sabbath time. Plan times to put away devices and stop looking at screens. And don't allow yourself to cheat on these commitments. Take planned news breaks, particularly in the evenings, as you prepare to rest for the night. Find spiritual practices that renew you without feeling like another task to do. Take time doing nothing and looking out the window. Remember that God calls us to rest as well as to work, that we need to spend time being, not just doing. Together, these first 4 commandments are about how to live out our love for God. What Jesus taught was the greatest commandment.
Love is the touch of intangible joy. Love is the voice that no fear can destroy. Love is the goodness we gladly applaud. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the lilt in a lingering voice. Love is the hope that can make us rejoice. Love is the cure for the frightened and flawed. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the light in the tunnel of pain. Love is the will to be whole once again. Love is the trust of a friend on the road. God is where love is, for love is of God. Love is the maker and spirit and son. Love is the kingdom their will has begun. Love is the path which the saints all have trod. God is where love is, for love is of God.
Honor your mother and your father, so that you may have a long life in the land that Yahweh has given to you. No murdering, no adultery, no stealing, no giving false testimony against your name, no desiring your neighbor's house, no desiring your neighbor's spouse or worker, female or male, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
That is the greatest and first commandment. The second is like it. You must love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments, the whole law is based, and the prophets as well.
What would the 10 commandments during COVID-19 be? Moving from ones grounded in our love for God to those based on love for others and ourself. Our care for ourselves and care for others lead into each other, existing side by side. During these COVID times, there are many ways we can be reminded that taking care of ourselves is also a way of taking care of others. And our care for others can be a way to care for ourselves. Wash hands to honor life. Following public health guidelines of washing hands, restricting travel, and focusing on what is essential can be a way to honor life. In keeping yourself safe, you honor all who are most vulnerable. Remember that each time you wash your hands, you are connecting with water, the source of life. Wear masks as a form of love. Wear a mask and keep at least 2 meters apart from those who are not in your household or your bubble. Remember that when you take risks, they are not only risks for you, but for those who are close to you and for all healthcare workers and others whom increased infection rates impact directly. A mask that you wear, what you do not do, who you do not visit, and where you do not go can all be deep expressions of love. Your choices matter not just for you, but for many others. Nurture connections. Simple connections matter, and COVID reminds us to focus on our connections with those who are close. If you are living with others, don't take time together for granted just because there's more of it. Be intentional about creating specific quality time, and find ways to respect the space and alone time as well. If you live alone, find ways to nurture connections to family, good friends, neighbors, and others while being safe, such as phone calls, emails, cards in the mail, friendly waves, and other creative possibilities. Recognize inequality. The good old days didn't exist, and we're not all in this together, but COVID has helped to reveal many of the forms of inequality that exist. Allow these times to reveal privilege to you as a matter of our faith. Find ways to learn about anti-Black, anti-Indigenous, and other forms of racism. Listen to people speak about the intersections of housing, employment, gender, orientation, race, and differing abilities. Take the time to listen, learn, and change, so that together we can move closer to God's vision for the world. Be creative. Find the new possibilities and opportunities to nurture relationships, care for others, learn and grow, and have some fun, so that together we can be co-creators of a world that works for all. Practice kindness and compassion. COVID is hard. Be gentle with yourself and with others. Set aside self-blame and recognize that you are doing enough. Remember that everyone is experiencing different worries and challenges, and someone's emotions are likely not about you. Kindness and forgiveness are gifts that you can extend to yourself and to others, and our compassion grows from the promise that in all things we are not alone. God is with us, always. I've invited us to imagine the 10 commandments during COVID-19. Did you expect any of the commandments on my list? What would be different on your list? What would our church, our community, our city, our world be like if we all lived and loved with the COVID commandments?
Yeah.